My ex-boyfriend invited me to his wedding to show off his rich fiancée, but my plus one did something completely unexpected that changed everything. I met Dylan when I was 22 and juggling college classes with a part-time job at Starbucks. He was 30, older, working beside me, and stuck under the same fluorescent lights that made every shift feel like it stretched longer than it should. What started as shared eye rolls over rude customers and overcomplicated frappuccinos turned into something more, slow, comfortable, and strangely warm. We bonded over our messy lives. I was scraping together enough to finally move out of my parents' house. Dylan was drowning in student loans, his parents knee-deep in gambling debts, and absolutely no help to him. It felt safe, like we understood each other's survival. 2 years passed. I graduated, I saved, I moved into my own place. Dylan, still stuck at his parents' house. I wanted to help. That's what you do when you love someone, right? So I offered. I told him he could move in with me. But the money situation, yeah, it was bad. He couldn't afford half the rent. Not even close. So I covered 80% of it. 80%. Just so he could have a space of his own. Of our own. He seemed grateful. Said he'd do what he could. We split utilities evenly, and I figured, okay, fair enough. Our work lives were polar opposites. Dylan had a physically demanding job. Long hours, unpredictable shifts. I had a corporate job. Remote, structured, and flexible. It meant I could work from home and still meet my targets, which my boss didn't care about as long as deadlines were hit. I understood that Dylan came home tired, so I didn't complain when I had to cook dinner after logging out of work, or when I did the laundry, or when I scrubbed the bathroom, or vacuumed the living room, or ironed his shirts. All I asked, just one small thing, was for him to take out the trash. That was it. One job, one chore. But he never remembered. Ever. I'd walk into the kitchen each morning and find the trash bin overflowing again, flies buzzing around the remains of takeout and beer cans. It was like a silent slap in the face. Once I had to leave for work over the weekend, an on-site project. When I came back home that evening, I felt my stomach twist. The house was destroyed. Dishes were piled high, the counters crusted with food. Chocolate wrappers littered the floor. Laundry was everywhere. Trash bags sat in the hallway like some sad, smelly monument to everything he refused to lift a finger for. And after a 12-hour shift, I didn't even get to rest. I rolled up my sleeves and cleaned for hours. I didn't stop until everything sparkled again. When Dylan got home that night, he hugged me and said he missed me, then plopped down on the couch and turned on the game. Didn't even notice the house was clean. Didn't say thank you. Didn't ask how my day was. Didn't lift his head from the screen. I stared at him. I think that was the moment something snapped inside me. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and cried into my pillow. I wasn't even sure what I was crying about. Was it exhaustion, loneliness, resentment? Maybe all of it. Later that night, I reminded him again. Please take out the trash. He nodded. The next morning, still there. I lost it. When he strolled into the kitchen, casually asking what was for breakfast, I turned to him and said coldly, "Make your own damn breakfast." He blinked, confused, like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "Why are you being rude?" he asked. That's when I snapped. I laid it all out. The cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the emotional labor, and the trash. Always the trash. He looked at me like I was overreacting. "You're being dramatic," he muttered. I took a deep breath and asked, again, why he never remembered the one thing I asked of him. His answer, "I forget. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal." I asked him, point blank, "What do you do around here, Dylan? Besides come home, open a beer, and plant yourself on the couch?" He sighed. "I work. I'm tired when I get home. I need time to relax." I nodded slowly, then said, "And what about me? You think I come home and get energized by doing all this crap? You think I enjoy cooking and cleaning and ironing your shirts like I'm your maid?" And then he said the thing that made my skin crawl. "I never asked you to do any of that. My mom used to do the same things for my dad. I just figured." I held up my hand to stop him, because that was it. The mask was off. "I am not your mother, Dylan." I told him from that moment on, I wasn't doing anything for him. No more cooking for both of us. No more laundry. No more cleaning up after him. He'd handle his life, and I'd handle mine. And if he couldn't pay 50% of the rent like a grown adult, he could find somewhere else to live. He stared at me in shock, like he was seeing me for the first time. "Where's all this coming from?" he asked. I didn't answer. I picked up my bag. I had work to get to. But for the first time in my life, I'd set a line so clear, it cut, and I felt no guilt. After that fight in the kitchen, I meant every word I said. I wasn't doing it anymore. No more extra laundry, no more shared dinners I cooked from scratch, no more walking behind Dylan with a dustpan and a tired smile. I was done cleaning up after a grown man who wouldn't even lift a damn trash bag. When I got home from work that night, I walked into the apartment and didn't touch a thing. I cooked dinner for myself, just one plate. I didn't even glance at him sitting on the couch. He looked up, surprised. "You didn't make me anything?" I didn't even look at him. "Number? You're on your own now?" He scoffed, muttered something about how I was still being petty, and went back to scrolling on his phone. 2 days later, he ordered takeout, left the boxes on the coffee table. I waited. 1 day, 2, 3, they sat there, grease stains soaking into the wood, wrappers collecting dust. I didn't touch them. I just stared. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was defiance. He was testing me, but I didn't budge. And on day 4, when the apartment reeked of leftover curry and sour sauce, I walked in, opened all the windows, and said calmly, "If those boxes aren't gone in the next 10 minutes, they're going in your closet." He grumbled. "Clean them up." Barely. The bare minimum. He started doing exactly as little as he could get away with. Tossed his clothes in the hamper, but never washed them. Wiped the counter, but left crumbs all over the floor. Took out the trash, but only when the bin was so full it looked like it might tip over. He was trying to get under my skin, trying to make me cave, go back to the way things were, play house again, be the understanding girlfriend who made it all easy. But I didn't cave. I started working late, staying at cafes longer, meeting up with old friends, taking myself out to dinner. And that's when the tantrum started. First, it was little comments. "You're never home anymore. You used to make time for me. Are you trying to avoid me?" Then it got louder. He started picking fights, accusing me of acting cold, said I was ruining the relationship. I told him calmly, "No, I'm finally showing you what it looks like when I stop being your unpaid maid and start being your partner. If you can't handle that, maybe we're not compatible." That sent him into a tailspin. He started proving himself in all the wrong ways. Buying flowers I didn't ask for, making passive-aggressive jokes about how nice guys always lose, trying to get me to pity him instead of respecting me. But the worst part, he never changed. He never actually did the work, never took real responsibility. He just played the part of the misunderstood boyfriend, waiting for me to fold. One night, I came home and found him sulking. "I made dinner," he said. It was pasta. The noodles were half-cooked, the sauce straight from a jar. I sat across from him, chewing silently. "See," he said, "I'm trying." And maybe I should have felt something, gratitude, softness, hope, but I didn't. I felt empty, because it wasn't about the pasta. It was never about the pasta. It was about respect. And I realized that night that he didn't know how to give it. Not really. He didn't understand what partnership meant. He just wanted a woman to do everything except call him out. I was done holding his hand through adulthood. So I told him, calmly, finally, "You have until the end of the month to find somewhere else to live." He looked stunned. "Wait, are you serious?" "Completely." He stared at me like I'd just shot him. "You're kicking me out? Number? I'm setting myself free." He didn't leave that night. He pouted. He begged. He tried to guilt me, but I didn't budge. And the countdown began. Every day that passed, I felt lighter. I started making plans, fixing the apartment up again, buying new sheets, rearranging the kitchen, slowly erasing him from the spaces he'd once occupied, like a fog I was finally clearing out. I was reclaiming myself, but Dylan wasn't finished yet, and what he did next, that was the part I didn't see coming. He moved out on the 30th, just like I asked. No drama, no yelling, just the sound of boxes thudding against the floor and the door closing behind him. I remember standing in the living room after he left, staring at the spot where his shoes used to sit by the door. For the first time in months, the air felt breathable, quiet. I finally had my apartment back. I didn't hear from him for months. No texts, no calls, no drunk apologies at 2 a.m. It was like he'd vanished, gone from my life as cleanly as a bookmark pulled from a finished chapter. And I was okay with that. I was rebuilding, relearning what peace felt like. I got a raise, picked up hiking again, reconnected with people I hadn't seen in years. I was sleeping better, laughing louder, living fuller. Until one morning, exactly 7 months after he'd moved out, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hope you're well. Just wanted to say no hard feelings." I stared at the screen. No name, but I didn't need one. It was Dylan. I didn't reply. But that was just the beginning. The next day, a pink envelope showed up in my mailbox. Heavy cardstock. Gold cursive lettering. Fancy. I opened it, half curious, thinking it was a wedding invite from one of my coworkers. But when I saw the names, my heart stopped. Dylan and Jasmine. I blinked. What? Cordially invite you to celebrate their wedding day. My vision blurred. Dylan, married, already, and Jasmine. I flipped the card over. There was a picture of them on the back, all smiles and white teeth. Dylan in a tux, Jasmine in a white dress, clearly from some engagement shoot. Her hand rested gently on his chest, showing off a diamond the size of a freckle. But it wasn't the photo that shattered me. It was her, because I knew Jasmine. She used to come into our apartment. She was a co-worker, a friend. She used to laugh too loud at Dylan's jokes, always linger a little too long when she said goodbye. I used to cook for her. I invited her into my home, and now she was marrying him, my ex, the man who couldn't even remember to take out the trash, the man who used me, leaned on me, and left me to carry everything. He was getting married. And not just that. He'd sent me an invite like it was some kind of sick joke, like we were friends, like he hadn't bled me dry and walked away with a smug smile. I stood there holding the card, hands shaking, rage pulsing beneath my skin like a second heartbeat. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a mix-up. But no, it was intentional. The message was loud and clear. Look how happy I am now. Look what I have, without you. I sat on the couch for a long time, staring at the invite. And then I did something I hadn't done in a while. I let myself cry. Not because I wanted him back. God, no. I cried because it hit me how disposable I'd been to him. 2 years of effort, care, love, and support erased, replaced, celebrated. I cried until the tears ran dry, and then I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and put the card back in the envelope. I wasn't going to respond, but I also wasn't going to ignore it. I was going to remember, because maybe he thought I'd be bitter. Maybe he thought I'd be jealous. Maybe he even wanted me to feel small. But all he did was light a fire in me, because that invite, that was his mistake. He reminded me exactly what kind of man he was, and what kind of woman he lost. I didn't RSVP. Of course I didn't. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction, but I was going. Not as a guest, not as an ex, as a mirror, a reflection of everything he threw away and everything I'd become without him. The wedding was set at some overpriced venue outside the city. Big garden, string lights, floral arches, cocktail hour under the stars. One of those weddings you plan with Pinterest boards and daddy's credit card. I thought back to our apartment, the sticky floors, the cheap curtains, him in boxers yelling at the TV while I folded laundry alone. Now he was hosting the wedding of his dreams with a woman I'd once let eat at my table. I picked my outfit with care. A deep emerald silk gown that hugged every inch of me like it was custom. My hair slicked back into a clean, low bun. Gold earrings. Subtle makeup, but sharp. Effortless, expensive, elegant. I didn't show up to scream. I showed up to glow. I waited until just after the ceremony started, late enough that everyone would notice someone slipping in. I stood at the edge of the crowd, blending in but standing out. I watched as Jasmine walked down the aisle, all smiles and sparkle. And Dylan, smug, grinning like he'd won. I almost laughed, because the Dylan I knew, he didn't believe in weddings. He said rings were a waste of money. He couldn't even be bothered to plan a dinner date without whining. But now, he was up there playing the part of the devoted groom like it came naturally. It didn't. It never did. I stayed silent during the vows, watched his lips move, promising loyalty and honesty and forever to a woman he likely met while he was still with me. I wondered if she knew, if she ever stopped and asked him what ended his last relationship. I bet he blamed me. I bet he said I was cold, difficult, too much. I stayed for the ceremony, then slipped out quietly. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I wasn't going to hand him the drama he probably expected. I just wanted him to see me. And he did. Oh, he did. As the guests funneled into the reception, Dylan spotted me near the edge of the venue. His smile faltered. For a second, he froze, like he'd seen a ghost. I tilted my head, offered a polite nod. Not a wave, not a grin, just a reminder. His jaw clenched. He whispered something to one of the groomsmen and started walking toward me. I didn't move. I waited. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed when he reached me. I smiled. "Didn't you invite me?" He looked around, panicked, like someone might hear. "You're not supposed to be here." And yet, here I am. He exhaled hard, nostrils flaring. "You're just trying to ruin this, huh? You couldn't handle that I moved on." I leaned in slightly. "No, Dylan. I just wanted to see if you'd lie to her the same way you lied to me. And congratulations. You did, right to her face. In a white tux." He went pale. "You're crazy," I laughed. "Software dangerous. Number. I just remember everything you want her to forget." He stood there, sputtering, trying to piece together something smart to say. But there was nothing. because I wasn't angry anymore. I was above it. I turned to walk away, heels clicking on stone like punctuation marks. Halfway down the path, I glanced back. He was still standing there, fists clenched, eyes burning. He'd won a bride, but lost the only woman who ever carried his dead weight without asking for anything in return. And now, he'd spend the rest of his life trying to prove he deserved what he stole. Let him. Because I didn't just crash his wedding. I rewrote the ending of our story. And this time, I walked out first. I didn't hear from Dylan after the wedding. No apology, no rant, no thank you, just silence. Good. I went back to living my life. Quiet mornings, coffee on my balcony, work projects that excited me again, friendships I actually had energy to pour into. I even joined a kickboxing class. The kind of thing I'd always wanted to try, but never had the time or space for when I was too busy carrying someone else's weight. It was peace. Not flashy, not loud, just mine. And then, it happened. 3 months after his wedding, I got a text from a mutual friend. "You are not gonna believe this." Attached was a screenshot from Facebook. Jasmine's profile, relationship status, separated. I stared at it for a long time. No caption, no dramatic post. Just one quiet update that said more than 1,000 words ever could. Another message came through. "They're done. Apparently he cheated. Already. She kicked him out." I blinked. For a second I thought maybe I'd feel smug, vindicated, victorious. But I didn't. I felt nothing. Because of course he cheated. Of course he didn't change. Because he never learned how to take care of something he didn't build himself. He didn't value what he didn't earn. And that ring on her finger, that dress, that whole fairy tale wedding, it was all costume. He played husband the way a child plays house, pretending, mimicking, performing, until real life asked something of him. And he folded, just like he always did. I didn't reach out, didn't gloat, didn't even watch the fallout, because that wasn't my story anymore. And that distance, that indifference, is the best kind of closure there is. Knowing I didn't have to do anything to see karma catch up to him. It did all on its own. And me? I kept rising. I started dating again, not to fill a void, but because I finally knew what I wouldn't tolerate. I knew the shape of peace, the weight of joy, the value of being met halfway. And I promised myself, never again will I shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. Never again will I apologize for needing respect. Dylan thought he broke me, but all he did was set me free. So, no, I didn't slash his tires. I didn't expose him to Jasmine. I didn't scream or beg or burn the whole thing down. I simply moved on, and life did the rest.